Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Success Studio Live. My name is Tara LaFon Gooch. I'm the CEO of Best Branding Solutions. And every episode, we interview successful people, people that are game changers in the industry, people that are purpose driven, but we enjoy talking to people from all over the globe. And our message today is key elements to work from home success. So many of us are remote workers. So many of us are working from the home and out of the office. And a lot of that changed with the pandemic. But my guest today is Hailey Corr, who is the VP of Marketing from LiveXchange. Hello, Hailey. Introduce yourself, please. And guys, drop some comments. Let us know where you're watching from as well.
Hi, Tara. Thank you for the great introduction. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm coming to you live from Sayulita, Mexico. It's about 45 minutes north of Puerto Vallarta, which is a resort town that most people know about. Sayulita is a lot smaller. We were talking a little bit before. It is about a 15-minute walk from the start of the town. Anywhere you go. You can get anywhere in 15 minutes walking in this little town, but it's a great town, and I'm very happy to be here.
Oh, that's amazing. But we were talking before the show started, and you've actually been a remote employee your whole career, right? That's amazing. That for so many of us, it's relatively new with COVID. Just within the last few years, I know it was for me. But how do you manage that? How do you just go all in and have success while doing it? Can you give us some tips of what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my remote work journey totally on accident and was really pushed into it because I couldn't find a job. So as we are looking at perhaps a recession, I actually graduated college in 2008 when we did go through a pretty major recession. And I looked at this situation and I thought, I went on a bunch of job interviews and I did a bunch of internships with tech companies. And I thought, I'm going to just go 6 months to Mexico and just do a little reset. And I was going to work as a party promoter for Senior Frogs. And I thought, 6 months, that was almost 13 years ago. Wow. And I got down and I was working as a party promoter and there were no tourists. I unfortunately moved to an area that tourism had really been hit by, the bad press and the news that we get about Mexico. So I looked on Craigslist and found a listing to be a logistics operator for a trucking company in Canada. And became a dispatcher for trucks in Alberta and British Columbia. And that started it all. And from there, I started my career in supply chain, and that went into outsourcing. And now I work in outsourcing and predominantly customer service, so CX, and now specifically gig CX with the organization that I work for called LiveXchange. It has been an interesting journey. As I said, I have never actually stepped foot into an interview situation in a corporate environment. I have done it completely from a small apartment somewhere on the Pacific coast of Mexico.
Amazing, incredible. Wow. I'm so jealous. I wish I was on a beach in Mexico somewhere, but that's a different topic, I guess. But the work
go for it. Jump on a plane.
I love it. But your work from home journey, so it's been your entire career. So when the pandemic hit, you were more prepared than anybody. You already had an established base. You knew how to set yourself up for success so that your schedule didn't run you, that you ran your schedule, right? So as a VP of marketing too, and I want to honor that because honestly, I just love seeing females in a executive space. So just congratulations on your role and all of your success as well.
Thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely. But how was that journey with through COVID? What was that, an easy one for you because you had so much experience working from home?
So oddly enough, right before the pandemic hit, I took a position for an analyst firm called HFS Research. By the way, a really awesome analyst firm that is always has their finger on the pulse of what's changing within the outsourcing space, but also just in general about emerging technologies. So I can't say enough about that analyst firm, but I was coming in as running their events sector. The pandemic hit. So I had to pivot really quickly. Even though I had worked remotely my whole career, I had gone, and a huge part of my success came from going to industry events. And so I was really excited to run these in-person industry events. I love being with people, even though I work completely from a screen and sometimes have never even met my colleagues. So I had to create an entire online event program. That was terrifying. But I reached out to individuals that I saw who had pivoted literally on a dime within days. One of them was the head of events for HubSpot. She was incredibly open to helping me kind of get a base of how to do it. And we started putting on these very small executive events for individuals who were looking for thought leadership in the space with HFS specifically. Those events led to more opportunities and networking, and also the touch points that I received from really great leadership.
Amazing.
So online events has brought me from being just a marketing manager into being an executive. So I work for an incredible leader named Terry Reibold. He's actually been on the show.
Yep.
And I had a podcast called Recorded for Quality Assurance. And it was about really customer service agents and what we need to do to support that position, because it's a difficult job. And Terry came on because he's worked in the business outsourcing space for so long. He and I hit it off. He became a really amazing leader to me and mentor and friend, and believed in me so much. And it was so incredible. And when we think about work from home and building a career remotely, making those connections with awesome mentors from around the globe. I have a woman named Eleanor Matthews who works for an awesome company called Open Assembly. She's in London. Terry's in Massachusetts. And these leaders have just promoted me, believed in me, pushed me to limits that I never thought I could go. And so Terry kept saying, I'm going to push you. And then he finally said, now I'm going to grab you. And he brought me over to LiveXchange. So,
wow, that's amazing. What an amazing story. See, it's awesome. So he saw so much potential in you, right? And like any good leader, he doesn't let a good one get away. I love that.
And I think, so when we talk about that, kind of covers the aspect of online networking, that don't think just because you are in a work from home environment, it means you can't network. Utilizing LinkedIn. When you get off the phone with an individual that you thought, gosh, they were really inspiring, I really liked the way they handled that call, that you make note of that, connect with them on LinkedIn, keep connected, happy birthdays, congratulations on their new position or a promotion, and really keep your LinkedIn authentic and always reach out. I think that's a really important aspect of networking remotely, to keep promoting yourself in that space. So we were talking about also before the show, moving into when you're actually in your job, some aspect of being successful. And when the pandemic hit, it was funny. I was working for an organization that was hybrid. They had talent from all around the world, but they did have a physical office in Cambridge, England. And they had a couple of us who had been working remotely for a long time give out tips. One of the tips I said right from the get-go was never have liquid close to your computer. Simple. Seems simple, but because we're in a remote space, we're being sent, expensive pieces of hardware. and you don't have an IT guy to get right on there, and perhaps you're far away from it. For me, I'm far away from a place where I can grab an American keyboard or US keyboard. So I don't keep liquids on my desk. I think it's also really important when you come into an organization that you try to have as much one-on-one time with as many people as you can in an organization when you go into the onboarding process. So when you're first starting, no liquids near your computer, and try to have as many one-to-ones.
I'm not listening to your first advice. I'm sorry.
You're not taking notes.
Isn't that funny? I love it. Actually, I have not one drink, but hold on, Hailey. I have a whole nother one. So I'm like, it's a
I
ticking
wish I
time
could
bomb.
say.
We have two as well. That's funny. Don't listen to our advice, everybody. But those are awesome tips. I love your tip about networking and LinkedIn and leaning in. And you know, when you're showing up as a leader on LinkedIn, when you're just showing up, right? One, it's staying top of mind awareness with your audience. You never know. Somebody could be your next greatest customer. Somebody could be your next greatest business partner, employee, whatever. And you never know. And they could be right here on LinkedIn. And it's an important thing. You know, if you want to grow your career, you have to grow your network, period. I mean, you have to network with other people. That actually never been easier because we have LinkedIn now. We didn't used to have LinkedIn. And there was a Rolodex. And I mean, I can't even imagine, right? Now it's so easy. So, you know, building your network, building your LinkedIn presence, so important, but especially as a remote employee, because you don't get that face-to-face time with people, right? As much.
Yeah, you're not getting that face-to-face time, but I think also when you're looking at LinkedIn and the way to strategically use it as a networking platform, that you are very conscientious of the content that you're putting out.
Wow.
There's a couple of different ways you can use LinkedIn. You can use it to promote your own personal brand and use it as a career launching pad, or you can use it to promote your organization that you work for. I choose to use it as a way to promote either the thought leadership, the non-commercial thought leadership that my organization is distributing, but also as a way to promote the brand. I'm a marketer, but I also don't put out anything that I personally don't believe in. So the content that goes on my page isn't just handed to me from leadership and put out. This is content that I truly believe in. What the organization I do for now is kind of like Upworks. It's a marketplace of highly skilled individuals who work on a gig freelance basis, but as customer service agents. We don't call them agents because they aren't tied down to one specific organization. They can work multiple gigs. But I truly believe in that model.
Yeah.
I truly believe that that's the way that we should be doing things, promoting work from home, promoting flexibility, and promoting that ability to say, you know what, today's not a good day for me. This week's not a good week for me. I'm going to take a step back and take a breather. And when we talk about burnout, which is really easy to do in the work from home environment, that you need to know those limits. And I think what that gig work does is gives that flexibility. And that's what people are craving now. And top talent is craving now.
Absolutely. Talent is craving it, right? And it's hard to get people to come back to the office full time. It's, you know, my husband, he's a professor, so he has to still have in-person classes. And his drive one way to work is 50 minutes. And it's 2 hours of his day every single day that he's not able to be productive. And it's hard not to look at it as a waste anymore. You know, so much of our lives again have changed since COVID, and that's not a bad thing. Especially the flexibility aspect of it. People are craving it. People want it. It's something that is essential, really, especially if you have a family. It's so hard. Speaking as a mother of a young daughter, and I only have one, I can't imagine having more than one, right? The flexibility that is required for that. But we as companies, we as employers have to keep those things, you know, in our minds. Otherwise, we're going to miss the boat on top talent. Don't you think, Hailey?
Well, I think you bring up a lot of good points in that. It's not only about missing the boat on top talent that would be in your area that will, specifically millennials will take a pay cut instead of going back into the office.
Right.
Gen Z will not even look at a job if it is not remote. They're saying that's the trend we're looking at.
Right.
So I think we have to look remote, but also the cost savings that comes from not having a brick and mortar or operation.
Right.
Like you're saying, your husband has to drive 15 minutes to get to his job.
Yep.
15 minutes back. The use of that time can be probably used listening to a podcast that can further him in his specific profession. But in reality, the morale hit that takes to someone is a lot for most individuals. I don't drive. So for me, the stress of having to get to a job would really be hurtful to my morale. So that brings to a great point, though, that how do we keep that morale when you're in a work from home environment? When you've come from perhaps being in an office where you can kind of walk around and, get a little pep talk in person from an individual, I think that there's some basic things that you have to do to ensure that you keep excited and keep invested in this work from home environment, which can often be a lonely island. Terry has specifically talked to me about getting on video. That's not something that I've typically done at other jobs. I can say now, so I get up, I make sure I exercise at least 30 minutes a day. I take a shower, I brush my teeth, I wash my face, and I show up in a nice shirt, not my ratty t-shirt, which before working at LiveXchange, I'll be honest, sometimes I would be 4 hours into my workday and be like, I am in my pajamas and I haven't brushed my teeth.
I love it.
I see that a lot.
I love your honesty.
We hear that a lot, though, through our little stories. And I think it's made a huge impact on my productivity to get up, get out of the house, get some fresh air, come back, and sit at my desk and be fully present and on camera. Changes the way that you interact with your leadership and changes the way that you interact with the individuals that you're leading.
Absolutely.
You can't hide anything. You can see my face. You can see my smile. You can see my frown. So I think that that's a really important aspect of being successful in your tasks, and then also just for morale and connection. When you can see someone, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Connection is huge, right? But then taking that extra step, brushing the teeth always, but taking that extra step to show up as a better version of yourself, right? And then it kind of sets your day up. So you feel more confident, right? You feel more presentable. You feel more present, as you said as well. I think that's really important. That's a great way to set yourself up for success, because if you don't remove yourself completely from the comfortability aspect that comes from working from home, like the pajamas, like I love yoga pants. I'm not going to down yoga pants, but you might not be set up for as much success that day, especially if you have meetings and you want to present yourself well, right?
Yeah. And I think it's, like I said, it's about everything you put out on LinkedIn, you do it with authenticity, and then showing up presently and authentically in this environment is really important. And part of that is showing who you are, showing the messy background, showing the husband that just walked in, it's part of it. It's part of it.
It is. I love it. I love it. That is so funny. I just enjoy this conversation. But again, so many people are working from home. Maybe they're still struggling with it. Maybe it's productivity. Maybe it's mental health, right? I think that's something too that's really important. when you work from home, there's no separation. Sometimes you feel like between your work and your home environment. So it can be hard to, compartmentalize that and not blend the two.
Yeah,
That I would like your advice on, because honestly, I'm not that great at it sometimes. Last night I was on this laptop till like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and that's not good. You just hop back on after dinner and it's so easy to get sucked in. What do you do? What do you have a tip for that?
yeah, it's funny you say that because I always say, "Oh, when I have kids, I won't do that. I won't have that on my laptop." And I know myself because I will. This is one of the things that I struggle with the most, and I am not good at. As I've said, I've only chosen organizations to work for that I truly believe in and want, and really believe in the product or believe in the concept or believe in. If I've worked for a lot of analyst firms and thought leadership organizations that I've truly believed in. So I'm excited about my job. I have sat at this laptop until midnight because I love it. So that's a super hard question for me to answer. What I will often do is I will time block my whole day and I will insert what is literally called a mental wellness check.
Good.
It is in my calendar. And that means sometimes it means a mental health walk where I just walk outside for 30 minutes. I take the dog, play with the dog, have a meaningful lunch with my husband. We just celebrated 1 year of marriage.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
It's been a great year. But I will say my husband owns a bar
Hmm.
in the town of Sayulita. And so we're like boats passing in the night. So at 3 o'clock, I stop and I have lunch. We have lunch together. That is our thing. We connect on it every day. If that can't happen, then we do make sure that we have at least some time together before he goes to work. When I get off and he goes, because there's an hour in between there.
Yeah.
And we make sure to sit down and spend that time together. But I think a big part of that, and like I said, is actually scheduling it in your calendar so there's a visual representation that you need to step away. And then at 5, that you put another place in your calendar that reminds you to get off the computer. It can't always happen, but actually physically putting it in your calendar and keeping individuals around you who will keep you accountable for not overworking yourself. I think that's really
Absolutely.
important.
I think that's so key, and scheduling date night, scheduling whatever, family time if you have a family, and then scheduling marketing time, scheduling networking time, right? Social media time. All of these things are important for growing our businesses, growing our brands, connecting with people. But blocking it off, and that's one of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn as somebody who absolutely loves LinkedIn, loves social media, is building a community on here, loves connecting people. I had to stop because it can be so time consuming, and then you get nothing else done, right? So it's so hard. You constantly feel like we have all of these things adding up and stacking up, but by blocking off time, just like you said, it is a huge game changer to the organization of your day, how successful you are. um, but it also prevents excuses too, like setting out workout time. If you set it out and you block it out and you don't let anything else in that block, you have to work out for
Yeah.
your health, for physical and mental health, right? And then doing the same thing for your mental health, maybe at the end of the day or beginning, whichever works, some time to meditate or just chill.
Yep.
So important.
I'm a huge believer in time blocking for everything.
Yeah.
So I like to have Monday is a day to focus on clerical stuff, operational aspects of the job. Tuesday, I like to do it's a meeting day.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to do all my meetings. I try to push them all onto Tuesday, whether that be internal or external. That sometimes can get a little tricky because stuff comes up. But time blocking tasks is something that I'm not super great at, but I do. And it's also something when I've gone around and asked leaders that I thought were exceptional with the output of their jobs and the success that they've achieved, they time blocked. 9 times out of 10, that's what they come back and say. And so in my mind, it's like, all right, whatever they're doing, I'm doing too. And I think, again, when we talk about success in this work from home environment, that you're constantly asking individuals in your network what do they think their top 3 things are to be successful in their role, whatever role, even if it's not a role that you do or plan on doing, because there's all different ways of doing it. So time blocking is a big one that I think everybody says. Setting really specific goal and objectives for I call them Terry talks. This is another one that Terry Reibel does. Setting very specific objectives for your day, your month, your year, and then very specific objectives for, let's say, campaigns or things like that when we're talking in the marketing world, and specific numbers down to percentages. I think those are really key. I have a notebook sitting in front of me. I know exactly what my day is going to look like today. I know exactly what needs to occur. It's time blocked off on my calendar what those specific tasks are and what time they need to occur. And if they don't happen, they get moved over to the next day. And if I look at my end of my week, I make an assessment of what hasn't gotten done, what were the barriers to not getting those specific tasks completed, and then a plan for how they are 100% going to be completed, and then going back to someone who's going to keep me accountable for those tasks.
Wow.
If I'm really struggling to get something done, I think specifically in marketing, we have a tendency to not work. There's a clash sometimes between sales and marketing. We don't have that over here. Sales and marketing are a well-oiled machine at LiveXchange. And the reason is because I am constantly going to my salespeople, what do you need from me to support you?
Yeah.
And when I make a commitment to them that I'm going to give them something, they keep me accountable for it. And therefore, I go back to them. I know that I owe you this thing. Please know it is time blocked off for this day, and I will have it to you by this date. And I think that's a huge part of not only work from home, but just career, that
Yeah.
you're constantly checking in with your team and that you,
Yeah.
again, are doing face to face with your team.
Yeah, exactly. And having that relationship, right? Being able to not work in a silo. Success is not in some vacuum. We all have to work together in order to achieve a goal, right? So bridging sales and marketing, or marketing and whatever, you have to be able to get outside of that silo and help people and cross communicate with other departments. Otherwise, the goals, the final objectives, they're just never met. And that's when companies are shrinking, right? So in order to grow, you have to be able to have that approach. But that's such a key, and it stems from forming a relationship with people, just like what you said at the end, right? Forming a relationship with people from other departments, staying at that top of mind communication, asking them to hold you accountable for something, and to guide you and to work through it together as a team. That is so key and so elemental for success from work and home. But for work from home, but you've got to make that connection, right? You've got to bridge that communication gap with things like video and Zoom calls. Email is not enough. So many people rely on email alone for communication, and it drives me nuts. Pick up the phone, do a Zoom call. There's so many ways to bridge a communication gap and stop frustration and create an opportunity, don't you think?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of times we all can read a text or an email and make an assumption of the tone. And I
Yeah.
think that's where we get ourselves in trouble sometimes, where communication breakdown occurs organizationally and in our personal lives. So I think getting on the phone, if you see you're not quite getting it, getting
Right.
on the phone to see the influx of someone's voice or the tone in which they're saying, and then doing mind share sessions where the objective of the call is not just to talk about a specific task, it's just to brainstorm. I also think that an important aspect of getting on those one-on-one calls and communicating is to also do like what we would traditionally have to be water cooler talk. So
Mhm.
say I start out on a call because I know I have to work on a certain initiative with one of my sales team members. But then at the end of the call, I always make sure, how are you doing? Anything exciting coming up this week? Anything exciting you're doing on your weekend? I know you were having that move. Any anxieties you have about that? Um, and getting to know people that you might not ever see in person. And it's happened to me a bunch where I've had really amazing connections with individuals and I have never met them in person.
Mhm.
Um, there's a really amazing CMO named Sarah Thomas. She is the CMO of Capgemini right now. She and I have never met in person. She was invited to my wedding.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, like 3 people were invited to my wedding that I've never met in person. And that was the first time we met.
Wow. But,
Oh yeah,
relationships are formed. You bring up a good point. I've said this before. Relationships are formed at a quicker clip right now in human history than they ever have been. Much quicker clip because we feel like we can get to know somebody so quickly, right? Over social media, over Zoom conversations like this. So many different ways. There's plenty of LinkedIn connections that we met on LinkedIn, but then decided to be friends outside of LinkedIn, meet for coffee, meet for lunch, whatever. And you never
absolutely.
know what kind of opportunities that could present for you, right? So don't close the door. Keep that communication wide open and create those relationships. It's so important. You never know where it could take you, right?
Super key. I think I have a lot of individuals that I've met in the professional world that I didn't think would cross over into my personal life and vice versa. Uh, I got my start truly when I really started to kick up my career was I met a really great friend who was teaching at the American School in Puerto Vallarta. Her
Mhm.
mom just happened to be the CEO of a leadership membership organization called Sourcing Industry Group. For thought leadership, if you are looking at outsourcing and don't know how to start, or you are a seasoned professional in the outsourcing world, procurement, supply chain management, this membership organization is the place to be. And I I needed a job. I had gotten laid off because of this is when Canada kind of went through a weird thing with oil. So they were having an oil shortage and they did a bunch of layoffs. And the trucking organization that I worked for was doing a lot of heavy machine lifting in that field. And so I didn't have a job. And my friend Brittany connected me with her mom and I got involved with SIG. And that's where the personal kind of crossed over into that professional. And
Mhm.
she said, you've worked for a trucking company for the last 5 years. I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. My
Mhm.
degree from college was in marketing,
Right.
but marketing is something you learn on the ground.
Mhm.
And so I went in as a marketing associate and just really put my head down and focused on my job and my career for the next 6 years. And I can't say that that was a really great call because it made it that I, kind of missed some stuff in my personal life. I got married a little later, and that was a goal of mine. I really wanted to make sure I got a life partner. But I think it was crucial to the success in the period of time that it occurred in. So with work from home, I think that that was also an aspect that accelerated my career because I was able to really get heads down and stay heads down. even living in towns where people are constantly on vacation around me. So I walk out that door and not one person is like just going to the grocery store.
Right.
You know, I walk out the door and people have surfboards because they're going to go surf, and
Mm-hmm.
they're drinking a beer at 10:30 because they're on vacation. And that's great. And so really keeping focused can be difficult, but discipline is another huge aspect of the work from home environment to
Yeah.
keep it for success.
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to be disciplined, but it starts with blocking out your schedule, right? So blocking out your schedule, that helps the consistency happen. But, there's a saying, you create your habits and then your habits create you, right? So, pay attention to those habits you're creating, pay attention to the consistency, pay attention to that blocking of the time of your schedule, and just setting yourself up for success so that you're making sure you're taking care of your mental, physical, and well-being, as well as your workplace, and succeeding there as well. It's so important. But thank you so much for the interview today, Hailey. It was such a pleasure as always. And I know that everybody walked away with, I feel like, feeling more successful from the work from home, from the remote environment. So I think that's so key. Any final last thoughts or anything like that you'd want to add?
I think the only thing that I would add is I think something else that's really helped me along my journey is to always put a smile on my face and have a good laugh. And I had a Sarah Thomas, who I was talking about earlier, always told me that it's PR, not ER. So
That's a good one. I like that.
PR, not ER. Nobody's going to flatline on the table today at my job. So
Right.
to
Yeah.
kind of remember to take a breath, give yourself a big smile, pat yourself on the back when things don't go well or things go well. And then, when
Yeah.
things don't go well, that it's a fleeting moment and you always have the next hour or the next day or the next month. So I think that's important.
PR, not ER. I'm stealing
Yeah.
that one. That's perfect. I love it. It puts it into perspective, right? So that's perfect. So thank you so much, Hailey. We appreciate you, and I appreciate everyone for tuning in today. I will be replaying this episode tonight at 7 p.m. So if you didn't catch it live here now, I will replay it tonight at 7. Thank you so much, Hailey. You're welcome to come back anytime. I appreciate you.
I would love that. Appreciate you